anyone can go through a little bit of a valley, have some hard times and quit. Anybody can do that, okay? But really I think what inspires action at a high level is when people watch you from a distance dealing with some pretty tough shit and you're still there. You're like Rocky. You just don't die. How old are you going to be before you start to experience life like you want it? I want to tell you right now, whether you like it or not, there is a better way to do business. Hi everyone, welcome to the Business for Builders podcast. My name's Max. I'm your host and I'm the CEO and president here at Smithies Canada. And I'm also the ambitious founder over at EliteBusinessAdvisory.com, where I do a lot of customized coaching, business coaching with contractors. Great to have you along. Appreciate if you've just dropped in to check it out. I hope I don't let you down. And of course, for all those folks that keep coming back, I really appreciate you doing that. It means the world to me. But as long as I keep giving value. So that's always the thing that G's me up prior to rolling out one of these for you. As usual, one of these drops every week. So like and subscribe, hit the bell. You'll get the notification. Also get across to Business for Builders VIP on Facebook. There's a good little community happening over there. Got any questions? Then, I really ask you to shout out because I know there's other people sitting in there probably with the same question. Answer the 3 questions, and if you're a good sort, I'll let you in. And, we want to make sure that we're, getting best bang for our buck and we're not getting interfered with. None of us like that. But yeah, look, it's good to be sort of back. We're into December now, and it's an interesting time of the year, and I'm really strongly thinking about, because we're so segmented in business development, of course, with me in the business coaching world as well as in the franchise world. We've got to be so strategic, because I remember being a 21-year-old reckless individual, and now I'm 51, and time just goes, it goes quick. You feel like it goes quick, but it's not going any faster today than what it was 100 years ago. But you do age fairly quickly as far as, you get through the years without noticing. And I think based on that kind of, here we are in December, and it just seems like, where did that 12 months go? So there's another year that's shot through. So what I find interesting about this time of the year is I go very much into, we're at the end of a quarter, coming into the beginning of a new quarter. But B, obviously we've just done a whole year, and we look over our shoulder and we're either very satisfied with what we've done this year or we are not. I think this year, probably the last 18 months has been filled with a bunch of challenges as well. So, tough times don't last, but tough people do. I'd like to add to that, systemized businesses last longer, and those that aren't undercapitalized. So, there's a lot to think about. And so this month and the last couple of weeks, I've been pressing, my elite business clients and, of course, franchised operators about, just taking it up a notch as far as really diving into the strategic planning side of things. As much as we can, as well as something that I've just started to lean on fairly recently, and that is leadership. And so, I'm going to sort of make December all about leadership and planning, or strategic planning, and really put some pressure on you. I've got a bit of a nasty habit of sticking my finger in pain points, because I just know that, for me, when life is good and it's cruising along, I'm not learning much. But when one of my mentors taps me on the shoulder and says, "Oi, why are you doing that? Can you explain to me what the reason is behind your activity in that regard?" It's good, because I'm like, he wouldn't say that unless there was some real obvious reason. And so, that kind of, push and shove can get a little bit offensive. There's no question. But I think if you know that the person that is looking after you, if you've got someone close to you like a business coach, usually more often than not, if their ego's in check, they're really just giving you a little bit of a nudge because they give a shit and they care. And so, I think a lot of the time that, if your ego gets out of check, you're going to go and react to that and give them a hard time. And I've had it happen. I've had it happen in this room, where I've started to outlay or lay down reasons around why there's business failure, and I get told point blank, "Max, you don't understand." Well, time takes its toll, because nobody listens and they hit the wall. And it's unfortunate. but that's what ego does. Ego is just an outward representation of massive insecurity, folks. And I think that you cannot be a leader of a strong tribe of your team if your ego is out of shape and if it's out of shape. I can't afford to have ego for 1 second. You can have confidence. I want people to be confident. You perform at the highest level when you're confident. But if you're just putting shit out there because you're trying to impress people, it's that classy, thing I say about, people that spend money they haven't got on shit they don't need to impress people that don't give a rat's ass about them. Like that's called insecurity. That's called ego. I'm trying to impress. Guys, I think when you've got leadership on your life, you need to start looking closer. I need to start looking closer at how I operate and how I think. And you do have to do an audit. You do have to do assessment. You have to understand. And then you've got to educate on top of that. Okay, so audit and assess and then educate. And so so this month is definitely going to lean heavily towards leadership. And it's going to also, I'm going to sort of build into that as well, something around strategic planning and focusing on. Something I've been chatting with my clients about recently is, the three areas of leadership. And you can have personal, there's your personal leadership, there's your professional leadership, and then there's your private leadership. And so for me, I've got to learn how to lead myself personally. I can't be out here and speaking to you guys about, the more you learn, the more you earn, and growth and development if I'm not doing it personally, and that's, I think, is an integrity issue. And there's too much lack of integrity in this industry that I see that needs to change. And so that's personal. Private is the way that I lead myself and my family at home behind closed doors. There's always a challenge there because I'm out here being the CEO and president and business coach person and whatnot. And then you go home, and if you're a bit of a dick at home, there's a misalignment between what you're saying and what you're doing. And those people that you love the most that are the closest to you kind of can see that from a mile away, okay? And so that personal and private's got to be, very much worked on consistently. And also there's your professional, and it's like, how am I doing building business? How am I going about leading my team? How am I going about being the individual, the professional builder or general contractor that I need to be able to be seen as a professional in the eyes of my clients, my subcontractors, my suppliers, and of course my team. So like today, we're going to dive into just leadership and teamwork. Running strong together is kind of where I'm coming from. It's like you can run by yourself and you can run fast, but if you want to go far, then you need to go together and you need to go as a team. So, I think interestingly enough, every time I talk to a business owner about growing a business, you realize that there's going to be more challenge, firstly. Second of all, you realize that you're not going to be able to do it on your own. And so, I think there's always that finger in that pain point where you have a challenge with that because in your comfort zone, you'd prefer to just not have any interactions with human, but you want the bigger business as well. And unfortunately, it doesn't matter who you are. We all need people in our business. Now, the challenge is obviously that we recruit well. And one day I'll write a book on how to recruit badly because I've done plenty of that in my time. And I'm trying to improve that. So, as the challenges grow, your teamwork and your leadership become more essential, to your success. And you know what? I think we just need to stop and think about what we're trying to do in the way of success too, guys and girls. I really don't think that we all want to go and be successful in 2025 and then fall on our asses for the rest of our life. I think that what we want to do is build consistency to and build a business to a certain level where we're happy with what the ROI looks like. Now, if you are a purebred entrepreneur, odds on is it's going to be hard for you to hit a ceiling and stop right there. I think that's always a case of, why do mountain climbers, there's like 8 highest peaks in the world and they're all over 8,000 meters. And it's like, well, why do you climb them? And they say, because they're there. And I think there's no realistic, why do we keep wanting more in our business? I've got clients that, the more intense it is, the happier they are. And I don't know that that's not a problem or an issue. It's just the DNA that's inside those individuals. So, I think really we've got to understand who we are firstly, and then we've got to make sure our personal and our professional goals are in alignment, and then we go and pursue what we need to pursue based on some of those constraints to ensure that we don't have an implosion, without leadership growth. And so this is the onus that's on me and you as business leaders. Without the leadership, or without leaders like you and me growing, the business will stagnate or even decline. And I've seen it happen. I've seen guys come in and 3 and 4x their revenue in 18 months. And what happens is the business grows because of market, I wouldn't say pressure, but market influence in a positive light. So the business grows in sales and revenue, but the business owner doesn't keep up and thinks that they are okay just staying the same. And we had, I've made reference to this since we had Coach Mack here on episode 200, and he said that you don't speak the language today of your business in 3, 4, 5 years' time. I don't. And so this is why it comes back around, and we have got to ensure that we are understanding that fundamental and that concept, not because Max said, but because it's literally, it's a natural force. Because what you're going to find is there is going to be people that will come into your company because you talk a big game, and then they figure out who the real you is. Now, I don't ever want to be that person that talks one thing and then gets discovered to be nothing like that. Now, that's an integrity issue over time. And I think that, if we are trying our hardest, doesn't mean we're perfect, but it just means that we have always understanding. And this is where humility kicks in as well, folks, because I sit here and I just share my thoughts with you guys and gals, and I appreciate you dropping in. But ultimately, for me, every time I look in the mirror, I'm like, dude, you got so much work to do. It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable. And sometimes it is intimidating, because the further down I go, the more I realize the level of responsibility that I have. And it really does put pressure on me that I cannot sit still for 5 seconds, because there's quite a few people who are listening to this show right now. And I appreciate you being here and hanging out with me. But it's that pressure where you come to the table and you're expecting me to bring some revelation and some education and some understanding and some enlightenment. And that there's a lot of pressure on me to do that. But I embrace that because it's why I started. It's why I decided to do, what we're doing here. Bigger challenges need bigger teams. Growth brings more jobs, more clients, and more complexity into your business. You can't do it alone. I think we have to understand that people say, it's so hard to find good people, and I don't disagree, but they're certainly not sitting at home playing Xbox. I think systems is what we need as far as, recruitment goes. Obviously, interviewing systems, onboarding systems, training systems, et cetera. But the teamwork that you put together divides the workload and keeps the business moving. And I've seen it enough times where you've got the one-man band and all of a sudden they're starting to get behind, and it's because they just haven't got enough capacity to fulfill the demand that is placed on them. We've got to trust our team to focus on the big picture. And I think this is where it comes down to you and I as business leaders, really defining what the mission is. And then, I think some incentivize people's participation. Now, there's a concept called gamifying, where you can sort of have that kind of good, healthy competition in between maybe salespeople or whatnot. But I think incentivizing things, also recognition. People work for a paycheck, but they die for recognition. We all need a bit of encouragement. We all need a little bit of an attaboy and a pat in the back. And I think, this is why, for me, what I've seen over the last 15 months of, operating as a business coach is that, yes, it's one thing to put some checklists out there and know your numbers and make sure your pricing model's correct and everything like that. But it's another thing to then have you as the business leader having to give your team the attaboy and the pats on the back. But who's giving you the attaboy and the pats on the back? See, how are we supposed to encourage our team if we can only give out of what we have? And so if you're busy just giving, and without getting a refill, and you're not getting topped up, then what you're doing is your own well that you're feeding everybody out of is going to run dry eventually. And we call that burnout, and we call that exhaustion, and we call that fatigue. And there's another reason when I'm talking to some of my elite business advisory clients, there's sometimes the conversations that we have on those days are all about that human that I'm dealing with right there and then. It's got nothing to do with the business. And it's sometimes it's my belief in that individual that sustains them for another week, and because sometimes we don't believe in ourselves. We have this habit of, wanting to give up on ourselves. But the fact is that when you've got someone to hang on to that has a genuine interest in seeing you succeed, which is what I believe I do for both my franchised operators and my elite business clients, sometimes that's good enough just to inspire them for another week to go around again and get after it. So it's, I think that, the takeaway for that would be that strong teams are essential for growth, but remembering that the speed of the leader determines the speed of the pack. And if you start to lose momentum, guess what happens to your business and the people within your business? It starts to slide. Okay, leadership and personal growth drive success. Without strong leadership, teams lack the direction and progress stalls, right? So, what happens is it's so important, and this is where we put a lot of pressure on ourselves because we're like, hey, I'm a really good carpenter, I'm a good builder, and then we go and try and monetize, and all of a sudden we bring people into our life. It becomes very complicated, okay? And what happens is it can become such a stress to you as the lead dog that all of a sudden your leadership begins to, become a little bit frail. The talk that you're putting out there, even your self-talk that's happening inside your head, what you're portraying is a weak leader. And so what happens is then the team starts to doubt your leadership capabilities, and then all of a sudden they think, oh, I've got to make decisions on my own because old mate's he's not towing the line, and we're really not getting anything from him. And so all of a sudden everyone's so we've got no cohesion in the group moving in the same direction. And then of course, because of that, effectiveness and efficiency and productivity go out the window, and therefore we almost, we basically, any progress that we were making, it now stalls. So what do great leaders do? Right, great leaders build relationships, they make quick decisions, and they inspire action. Having gotten back into construction as a business operator, which I love, for me, there's multiple cases per week where I'm chatting with trade partners or suppliers, or I'm dealing with clients, and the networking effect and the way that I've got to interact is all about relationship and network building. It's really important to what I do naturally. So we had a small client, $10,000 job. Okay, we did the job on point, hit our margin point. Not a lot of cash, but as far as margin percentages, it was good. And then straight after that, I approached the client for a 5-star Google review, which he was more than happy to give out. Now, one would think that might be the end of the day, but then what I did is I hit him up a couple of days later and I said, where would you like a gift card from? Because I'm going to get you a $50 gift card as a token of our appreciation for being such a good client. And he was blown away. It's just this kind of building relationships. And you know why I do that? Even though it's on a $10,000 job, is because I have just created now a mobile billboard. If he even gets someone remotely talking about needing a builder or a general contractor, what's the chances that my name's going to get dropped? Pretty darn good, right? So that's what good leaders do. They build relationships. They create networks. Now, making decisions, that's the other thing. For me, I'm on it all the time. I mean, I've got a controlling influence in 3 corporations, and I have not got time to dilly-dally as it relates to decision making. I actually feel more peace of mind when I've made a decision and I'm running with something, even though it may end up not ending up where I want it exactly, because that momentum, I can tweak that direction and still maintain momentum. So making decisions is what great leaders do. And then we inspire action as well. I think, one thing that just comes to mind is when when we start building up a head of steam and we've got a decent 6-figure job coming down the pipe right now that was waiting on finance, and I just know that, I've got to talk to my trade partners and the suppliers. Matter of fact, I sat down with old mate at one of the hardware stores here in town and hadn't caught up with him for the longest time. And he was pretty inspired that I was back in the game. And, he's been a big believer in what we've been doing here at Smith & Sons for a long time. And we had a great chat. And, I specifically dropped in there just to see him because I had not spoken. We had not met in his office for probably years. He'd been in this room for one of our franchise meetings. And, I just felt, I went in there and he just went out for lunch. So I nicked off and I grabbed another commercial account application from another hardware. And then I just shot back to him and caught up with him. And, I think he was feeling pretty inspired that, that I was doing what I was doing, with Smith & Sons. And so that's what leaders do. I think too, guys and gals, you need to understand that when you go through challenges, and you will if you haven't already, that it really inspires action when you're still standing. Anyone can go through a little bit of a valley, have some hard times, and quit. Anybody can do that, okay? But really, I think what inspires action at a high level is when people watch you from a distance dealing with some pretty tough shit and you're still there. You're like Rocky. You just don't die, And so, I think above all else, for you to keep on doing what you're doing, tough times don't last, but tough people do. And that's really cliche. What you need to do is go and be that tough person that does see it through. And, we talk about the valley of despair where people start out in that creation phase and they love the discovery and the new part of having a business, and they're in this optimistic but uneducated, phase. And then they drop into a little bit of hardship, and all of a sudden they're starting to get some education and they're realizing that, now it's not as easy as what I thought. And so they move into that pessimistic, attitude. And then they keep sliding down because they're busy blaming other people and situations outside their control instead of just taking responsibility and looking for the answer. And they hit the valley of despair. And then what happens is they go, it's too hard, I might just nick off and start over because I really love the discovery and the creation state of the union, rather than, getting into the valley of despair and trying to figure out why the business hasn't succeeded. And so, I think that for you and me, how do we inspire action? By still being there at the end. Now, if you can't, look, I understand at some point, sometimes you've got to call it. And I've done that more times than I can remember, where I've pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and it didn't work out. So you just go, you know what? I have done everything I can do. I don't think I can see this through. I have to, pivot and make an adjustment, and that's fine as well. But just really, I want you to work as hard as you can on alleviating. And because you know what? If you can push through, there's going to be lessons that you learn, and there's going to be things that become an asset to you because you chose to look it in the eye and take it by the horns and take it down, okay? And rather than letting it, take you down. So be as persistent and consistent as you can, because that's where the magic lies, okay? Outside your comfort zone. Personal growth and communication and time management and mentorship enhances professional success. Right? I heard a saying only last week. It said, lead ourselves well so we can lead others better. Okay? Just think about that. That's really leaning towards, the speed of the leader determines speed of the pack. If you're hustling and you've got some momentum, then people that are very similar to you, they will want to keep up with you. They want to hang with you because that inspires action in them as well. So, we need to be able to communicate at the highest level, manage our time well. Crikey. It's just like, guys, you've got to have a routine. I really honestly believe that that's the case. I literally will have a routine because it means I don't have to burn any mental energy thinking about what should I do now. It doesn't. It's just all built into the system and off we go. So, try and work on time management. Don't allow your schedule just to happen to you. Set your schedule up and go, this is when I do it. Okay, so the takeaway is leadership and growth are keys to long-term success. We don't want to go and build a business. And this is why I started out at the beginning saying that I've seen business owners have tripled and quadrupled their sales and they just thought, well, I'm okay, I don't need to change. And what happens is the business does die back. it does decline, and I've seen it. And so, if you want the long-term upward trend and trajectory, then leadership and personal growth are keys to that development side of your business. So it's trending upwards on average per year, not trending downwards. Side note, great communication is the highest act of respect you can give. See, when people ignore you, that means they're not communicating. And you feel extremely disrespected. So, I think sometimes as operators, and this is a leadership thing, we have got to understand that we cannot forget to communicate with people. It doesn't matter whether they're our team, whether they're our trade partners, whether they're our suppliers, whether they're our clients especially. We just need to, because what you're going to do is you're going to mean well. Oops, sorry, apologies for forgetting you, but by then it's too late. Okay, so the highest act of respect is communicating at the highest level, and collaborative communication is kind of like driving down the road. And if somebody's not using their blinkers to change lanes, it's kind of offensive. That's because there's lack of communication. So, folks, what I'd encourage you to do is encourage your team, and maybe you can have this at your next toolbox talk. It's like, guys, use your blinkers. Okay, communicate. Collaborative communication creates harmony within the business. Okay, on all fronts, up and down, left and right, okay? Bigger the challenges, need teamwork, and then leadership, personal growth drive long-term success. You need to commit to growing yourself and your team to ensure your business keeps running strong. Get across to Business for Builders VIP, answer the questions, I'll let you in. One of these drops every week. Like and subscribe. Shoot me an email, max@elitebusinessadvisory.com. If you want to have a chat about coaching, get across to elitebusinessadvisory.com. Hit the book a consultation, or is it the meet with Max? I think it's book a consultation button over there. And I'd love to see if I can, drop some really good value to you personally and specifically to your business. And then we can figure out whether or not there's some sort of coaching opportunity or deal that we can make going forward. But nonetheless, be strong, go build a kick-ass business. See you on the next one. Cheers.